What is up, guys? Bingo here. I'm with the Duel Factor for Season 2, Episode 19 of X2 Drop, our Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast we do, where surprisingly we haven't missed an upload in over a year. We just checked that the other day, so I think we're a year and a month now, so it's pretty great. This week, we kind of got burnout on the not real Yu-Gi-Oh! Format we're in right now, so we just wanted to kick it back and talk about something a little more casual and fun, more story time stuff. So it was Joe's idea to talk about our first decks, and then I just kind of changed it to our first casual deck from way back in the day, and then our first competitive deck that we tried to have success with. So as always, Joe, this was your topic idea. It's been that way for about a month and a half now. I'll let you kick it off. So give us a time, like whatever your first deck was, and then like when you used it and your experience at the time, because these definitely need some context.
Oh yeah, 100% need context. So we're gonna rewind the clocks back here. I like to say it's somewhere between 2007 and 2008 because I can't remember when I moved to Florida, and we're definitely gonna say this is a casual deck because I thought I made a competitive deck, but it was 100% not. So as you all know, there's always that local player that brings their own homebrew. So we're definitely gonna say this is my homebrew, but a family friend helped me build this. We went with the deck theory building of it was like 20 monsters, 10 spells, and 10 traps, right? So we were still keeping the 40 theory, so that was at least one competitive thing we had going here. But this deck was a mess, right? So like, I remember building it, and like the win con, we'll say here, was Hino Kagasuchi. It's level 8 spirit monster.
Which is an awesome card, by the way.
Fantastic card. But the idea was all I had to do was inflict some sort of damage with it. And then the following turn, my opponent has to dump their hand, right? Yeah. And like, I thought it was like interesting because like that was like my 2-sack monster, and then I had like a Summon Skull and then a Genzo in there as my 1-sack monsters because they were decent cards. And then there's a bunch of weird stuff in there, right? Like I was playing Desk Koalas, I was playing Giant Germs. I didn't know it until one of the judges at the Game Store in Florida took a look at it, but I was playing like 9 ban cards in the deck. So it was fantastic. So I had to change it the day of, and like I just got smashed, right? Like it was just awful. And I'm sitting there, and then the deck just kind of like evolved. Like some kid convinced me to play like the XYZ Dragon Cannon pieces in there and like Ancient Gear Golem, and like the deck was just a mess, like a hot mess, right? Like it was like I remember like we played like Assault on Goblin HQ in there as one of the trap cards. I thought it was a dope trap card.
Is this like it sounds like an anime style deck where it's just like all one-ofs.
Yeah, that's what it was. The only 3 ofs, like when I first got it, were like Giant Germs and Duskwall. Like, bro, the deck was just awful. And then, I was playing Assault Against Jabba. We'll get back to that part. Well, it's called, it was also came in Ultimate Rare, so that's why I played it. But it was called Assault on Goblin HQ. And I think it's like whenever someone declares an attack, your opponent has to send the top 2 cards of their deck to the graveyard. I found out that was a mistake because I was playing against a Lightsworn player and I didn't know it, and I attacked and flipped that card and I hit 2 wolves. So that was fantastic.
So, how old were you again?
So I was like, let's see here. We had just moved. I was like 15 or 16 years old, and I had no idea how competitive Yu-Gi-Oh was. It was quite the learning experience.
Was this so? Was like online buying like a thing? Like obviously you didn't do it, right? It was just like what you had or what you could find with your friends, right?
Yeah, so like it was kind of weird. So like there was like my type of player, right, where we had all these casual decks and like didn't really know what was going on, and I thought I was being competitive, I wasn't. And then there was another group where like they were buying cards, but I don't know if there was like a huge online presence at the time, because I remember people just going around locals like trying to buy cards, and like I remember people buying like bunches, like a lot of boxes, and then I was watching two go on a case of Light Destruction because they're trying to build Lightsworn and stuff like that. It was interesting. But,
so what's your do you have like a match in your mind besides the Lightsworn one that sticks out with that deck?
I remember playing against it was the store judge, and he was playing. Dark Arm Dragon was still relatively expensive at the time, so it was like the Dark Arm Dragon deck, but without Dark Arms. He was playing like Dark Lord Zerados, and he was playing D-Mock and stuff like that to kind of like make up for it. And I remember sitting there, and I So I don't know how I got it. I think it was the special edition one at the time, but I summoned a Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy in the end, right?
Yeah.
And the dude just stares at me blankly, and I'm like, "Is there something wrong?" He's like, "That's banned." I was like, "No, it's not."
It's in my deck right now.
Yeah, and there's just a bunch of people just going around. And that's when I experienced my first disqualification. Oh, it was fantastic.
So
It was great. It's great, dude.
I mean, it sounds like your first deck building experience is relatively similar to mine. Like, did you play with your friends a lot before you actually went to locals, or did you just go to locals?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so it was a lot of backyard Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, it was me, my brother, our friend Johnny, Alejandro, Alex, and I'm trying to think if there's anyone else, but we were just all playing homebrew. And I thought I was a shit because I was kicking everyone's ass, and they're like, "Oh, damn, you should go play here." I'm like, "All right, cool." Little did I know it was a trap. It was a trap, bro.
Oh,
They might not have realized it, but it was a trap.
So my first casual deck that I took to a locals was very different than my first casual deck that I played with my friends. I want to make that very clear. We'll get into that in a minute. But it was like a stall deck. It was a burn based around. Surprisingly, it actually had a concrete strategy. I got 3 ofs. Like it was like 2000. It was like 2003, 2004, I think. And it was like Gravity Binds, Level Limit Area B, Fire Princess, Solar Flare Dragon, Giant Germ, and I want to say there was Raging Flame Sprite in there.
Oh, yeah, you already sound like you had way more structure than my deck going, bro.
But,
way more structure.
It was just it never lost unless my opponent opened like a way to get Jinzo on the field. This is with my friends, right? Like one of my buddies had Jinzo, and the only way I lost is if like my stall cards like Wabaku and Gravity Bind got shut off by Jinzo, and that was a pain in the fucking dick.
Nice.
But I think that's where like my love for like a control based strategy came from. Like I hate stall and stun. You know, like what's the fucking deck like? I can't remember. What's the current modern day stun deck? Oh, like Inspector Border, like Mystic Mind. I like stuff like that. I just can't stand. But I think that's where it came from, just slowing the game down. But my first actual like deck I played was just an Exodia deck with like Sangyan, Witch of the Black Forest. Not needing to show my opponent what I searched because I didn't know you had to. Because I know like a couple weeks after I took the Fire Princess deck, I took Exodia to locals. And again, I was like 12. So, you know, if I was like soft cheating without knowing, like nobody really called me out on it. And I just remember like it was like round 4, game 1. And my opponent's like, he's kind of like beating me down, but I've set two searchers at this point. And then he attacks the last one, and then I draw for turn, and I show him Exodia, and he's like, fuck. But
obliterate.
The best part about, or my least favorite loss I took from like way back in the day was I was like about to win with my burn deck, and I attacked into a Fiber Jar, and then fucking got destroyed.
Nice.
Fiber Jar is just a card, like I think about it right now, I'm like, that's a flip effect, you know, it's like, who cares?
Yeah,
fuck that card, man.
Arcade Yu-Gi-Oh! That card's insane, bro.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But I did have the same problem with you did. I wasn't that aware of the ban list, so I had to take out like Reborn but I was playing when the first ban list came out, so it wasn't that much of a difference.
There wasn't as huge of a hindrance. No, I get it.
Yeah.
100%, bro.
But getting fucking Yada locked was not fun for 13-year-old me.
Well, I'm sure that had been a fantastic feeling.
Yeah. All right, so do you got any other like old school casual Yu-Gi-Oh stories?
Oh yeah, well, going back to when I had my home brew deck. So once I got my ass handed to me several locals in a row, I decided it was time to build a new deck, right? But I didn't have like money to put into it,
And I needed something cheap because, like, I was also like I wasn't working at the time. I was doing a lot of sports in high school. So I had to go with something cheap. And then I remember some kid talking about Crystal Beast cards, right? So they're relatively inexpensive. I remember seeing a Rainbow Dragon on a pack of Tactical Evolution, right? I'm like, bro, this card's badass. And someone told me that you could play it. And I was like, hell, I could play that card? And they're like, yeah. So my first deck I built with a competitive mindset was Crystal Beast. And I remember playing it at a locals. And I was doing a lot better than my first time playing it. I did a lot better than any other time I was playing. I won my first 2 rounds. I'm like, holy shit, we might actually have something going here, right? And then round 3, I didn't know it at the time. I was playing against a Lightsworn player. And I was sitting here doing my strategy. I had summoned Rainbow Dragon. And this one I also thought the card was like infinitely better than what it was. Like infinitely better. And I thought I had the game wrapped up, and I thought I was going to start 3-0, right? And then my opponent summons a JD. All right. Nukes my board. I'm like, it's fine. We can recover from this, right? Because I have 3 Crystal Beasts in my back row because he nuked the board. And I look at my hand. I have like a rare value and like an Ancient City Rainbow Ruins. I'm like, oh, sweet. I can come back from this. Well, I didn't know JD wasn't once per turn. So he does it again. I was like, ah, shit. It's okay. I'll be fine, right? Well, then my opponent summons the second one. I was like, it's going to be a little dicey, but whatever. And then he proceeds to summon the third one, and then Joe finished X2 that day. That we're just going to leave it at that. Good. So then I played another locals with it and realized that like playing Rainbow Dragon obviously wasn't that well, right? So this is when like we first like start taking a turn from like I'm going like this is what I think is good, and then we go to what's actually good. So then we build the deck more. We take Rainbow Dragon out of it, and I start playing like because it came out of the 10s. So I played Haman, Lord of Striking Thunder, because it was a more consistent boss monster card. And the effect during the time was actually relevant, where you can put it in defense mode and your opponent can only attack that card. And we built the deck around Crystal Abundance. And I remember playing, and I was talking to Doug and Aaron about this yesterday. So I was playing the Abundance build, and I remember I was playing, and it was the greasiest motherfucker I've ever met in my life. But we were just playing, and then I activate Crystal Abundance, which Crystal Abundance, you send 4 in your spell and trap cards onto the graveyard as a cost, and then you send all cards on the field to the graveyard, and then you can special summon Crystal Beast from your graveyard up to the number of cards you sent from your opponent's field to the grave. All right. And my opponent flips Fake Trap on me, and I have no idea what it does, but then the guy tells me that it negates my Crystal Abundance, right? I just let this ride, because I don't know any better, and I thought that was the correct thing. And so I just immediately quit playing Crystal Beast after that, because I wasn't trying to get Fake Trapped again. So let's fast forward the clocks to the present day, and I reread Fake Trap for the first time in God knows how long, and realized that I got fucking cheated.
All right, so for anyone that doesn't know what Fake Trap does, let's read this card. You can only activate this card when your opponent uses an effect of a spell trap or effect monster to destroy trap cards on your side of the field. Destroy this card as a substitute of those trap cards, and the other trap cards are not destroyed. If a set card would be destroyed, pick it up and see the set card. So it only protects trap cards.
No, it doesn't just protect trap cards. Well, that's not the point here. Because Crystal Abundance clearly says fucking send.
Yeah, gotcha.
And apparently this is why I learned to read the fucking card. So whoever that guy is who did this to me when I was 15 or 16 years old, yeah, fuck you, guy. That's my main point. That's my point here.
All right, so that's your first competitive deck, was Crystal Beast?
Yes. That's the first deck I ever built with a competitive mindset. And I was pissed.
Okay. Well, before I get into competitive, there's a backyard Yu-Gi-Oh story I want to tell that I just cannot forget. It was me, my buddy Nick, Jake, and his brother Zach, and we were we were sitting actually on the fucking kitchen floor playing like a 2v2 Yu-Gi-Oh, right? And like I don't know how the fuck this happened, but the game state was, right, I had like a set Wabaku. My partner had nothing because he hasn't had a turn yet. Jake went first. He summoned All-Seeing White Tiger, the vanilla, right?
Okay.
And he set Eye of Truth. This is like fucking 2000, like beginning of 2003, I think. He set Eye of Truth and like some other bullshit trap cards. I have no idea what happened the rest of the game, except on the end of Jake's partner's turn, he flips Eye of Truth and he says because he has All-Seeing White Tiger on the field, he can look at my partner's deck. And we're just like, okay, makes sense.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Like, I have no idea why we let that ride or like where that came from. But he's like, yeah, because I control this card and activate this shitty ass trap card, I can look through your deck.
Bro, is this like fake Egyptian god cards where they have effects and shit? Like, what the fuck's going on here?
This was before those cards came out. But then we eventually did get those and made some bullshit rules with them like everybody else.
Bro, that's hilarious. Because he said, I had Eye of Truth and All-Seeing White Tiger.
Yeah, it's
Well, that's the combo.
I think back to that probably like once a year, and I'm like, how did that make any sense? There's nothing on the anything. But okay, jumping back to competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! I didn't really like get into competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I quit in about 2005. What was the set with Air Knight in it?
Air Knight Parstaff?
Yeah.
Shit.
Hold on. I know that was
that was after Piranha Guardian, wasn't it?
Air Knight Parsec. Legacy of Darkness.
Maybe. It was somewhere around that time because that was one of the last sets that came out before I stopped playing.
Let's see here. Yeah, Legacy of Darkness was the second game out of.
So I didn't get back until 2016. So fast forward. The first deck I took to a regional was Zodiac, and I've talked about that at length. But the first deck I built with a competitive mindset was ABC. And this was pre-D-Barrier ABC. So it was just like 3 structure decks and a bunch of other trap cards, right? Bujin, Tsukiyomi, draw 2 type stuff. And I just remember taking it to locals and getting bodied by Marcus Hayden in the mirror match.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. I had no idea, like, I didn't understand half the card interactions, like, they're union monsters that fucking don't trigger when they're detached materials. I didn't know you could special summon them after they got equipped. It was just only when they were equipped with hanger you can special summon. Like, I didn't read half the cards. Like, I just got straight destroyed, right?
All just straight bodied up, right?
Yeah. But then I realized, like, ABC's a shit deck. And Zoo came out, and that is the greatest deck ever made. What? You got something to say to that?
Nah, go ahead.
No, I mean, that's about it. I've talked about Zodiac fucking 900 times on this channel. Like, Dryden's incredible. The deck's more consistent than, like, anything ever. And that's about it. Barrage was so free, you could take it to any store and swipe it, and it'll pay for your transaction.
God damn it.
Oh, fun side note. My buddy, during Zoo format, ordered a custom debit card that had Barrage on it.
This man's a savage. I want this debit card. Can I have it?
No.
Fine, be that way. But anyway, so let's see here. My first one that I did was Crystal Beast, right?
Yeah.
Well, once we got tired of that deck, so for those of you who remember this time in Yu-Gi-Oh, but Royal Oppression was legal at the time, and it was fairly cheap because it was a basic rare, from what I remember. And that actually, we'll say this was the actual first time that I actually played like a real competitive deck. Well, I don't know if it was a real competitive deck, but Yu-Gi-Oh was like kind of weird for deck building at the time. But Light of Destruction had not only did it introduce the Lightsworn deck, but it also introduced the 4-star monster known as Soldina Pachycephalo, right?
Yeah.
So we built this deck around the idea that we were just going to stop all special summoning throughout the entire game, and then your opponent was going to lose to your +1 advantage. And the deck was called Gadget Oppression, right? So because we had access to, I had access to the Royal Oppression. I had got lucky and packed 2 copies of Fossil Dino from Light of Destruction from some of the tournament packs that I got. And one of my buddies was willing to loan me a third. And the deck idea was actually like super interesting, right? So we were playing the Gadget monsters when they first came out, and they just came out of the Ancient Gear Galvatron structure deck that had that big dragon-looking thing. So we had red, green, and yellow at the time. Those were the only gadgets we had. And the idea was you would either stick a Fossil Dino Pachycephalo on the board, or you would stick a Royal Oppression, and then you would just stop special summoning altogether while you kept getting +1s by summoning your gadget monsters. And your opponent would not be able to keep up with it afterwards. So it was basically like the first like stun deck I ever played or anything like that that was like actually viable at a competitive level. And I remember playing it, and it had a really, really good Lightsworn matchup. The Dark Armed matchup was kind of weird. And then it was 50-50 again. Gladiator Beasts that just came out too, so you had like Laquaris and stuff like that, which were kind of a problem because they could just stick over your Fossil Dinos and stuff like that, but you could use Royal Oppression to stop like the tag out effects. So it kind of like flushed itself out a little bit right there at that point. But I played that for like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months, just like learning like game mechanics and learning how to actually see the strengths of like competitive decks and stuff like that. But then I dropped Yu-Gi-Oh! Altogether to focus on sports in high school, and I didn't play Yu-Gi-Oh! Again until like 2012. But that was like my first like actual like exposure to like actual competitive Yu-Gi-Ohs once I got past the homebrew theory and then first competitive deck, which was Crystal Beast.
Yeah. And like Oppression, like I don't think I ever played with that card. I don't think it was out like way back, and I think it was banned by the time I came back. But that card is just, it's like way better than I think it's better than Vanities. Like
it made the game interesting, especially the way I was playing it, because I was going to stop my opponent from special summoning regardless. But it also gave my opponent the same option to do to me, right?
Yeah.
But like, I wasn't special summoning, and I was abusing the Royal Oppression to its fullest ability. And we still had Ultimate Offering at the time. So like when you drew a gadget at Ultimate Offering, like your opponent wasn't beating you because you weren't special summoning. You were just summoning 14 and 1300 beaters the entire game, and your opponent just couldn't keep up with it because the Lightsworn deck obviously was just built around special summoning, and he wanted to summon monsters like Wolf so you contribute for your Celestias, but you couldn't set up. Like the only out they had in the deck turn one, under Raiden wasn't even out. It was Raikou, the flip monster. That was the only out.
To Oppression. I thought you meant to Fossil Dino for some reason.
Yeah, to Oppression. That was like the only true out. Like you could draw like Gareth and stuff like that, which it was played in multiple copies because there weren't as many good Lightsworn monsters, and there's obviously Lila and stuff like that, but you had ways to protect it. It was super interesting.
Yeah, and Lightsworn still blows my mind thinking back to when it came out. You know, it's just like I feel like that deck was so strong compared to everything else at the time.
It was insane, bro. The deck had like multiple win cons, and then Reasoning was a card that was still at 3 at the time, and it was really good in that deck.
And hold on, this just clicked. You had Ultimate Offering and Oppression. When did Offering get banned? Because that card is that's a busted ass trap card.
Offerings I won for the longest time. I can't remember. I'm trying to remember back to what the list was, but like the card was insane. With the Lightsworn deck. Now I'm just trying to think of the Lightsworn deck because like I remember this as being the bane of my existence whenever we were playing like first competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Because I don't know who all remembers this, but one of the face cards of Light of Destruction was Guardian of Order. It came out of the it was a sneak peek card, and there was a secret in the deck, but all you had to do is control 2 light monsters to get the special summon. It was like 2500 attack or something like that. That card was insane in the deck. That was like a mini win con. For those of you who really want to hear a throwback and always wonder why Celestia, the Lightsworn Angel, is an ulti, that was a win con way back in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because like blowing up 2 cards and milling 4 was insane. Like just insane. And then JD went from 3 to 2 to 1 to 1 to 2 back to 3. Like the card was insane.
All right, so moving on from your, what was that 2014 Yu-Gi-Oh?
No. This was 2000.
No, not 2014. It was
This was 2008, 2009 era.
Moving on from there. So obviously, anybody who listens knows that I played Zoo, but I did eventually stop playing that deck. One of my favorite decks that I've ever gotten to take in a competitive mindset was, it wasn't Mech Knight Invoked, it was Hand Trap Invoked. And I've talked about this a few times, but Hand Trap Invoked in the format that I got to play it in was a lot of fun. It was the it was Spiral format on the, like, right before Pendulum Magician came out, where they overlapped, that brief period of time. And I felt like it was such a unique deck because Mechabo was a one card answer to Sleeper. But if they cleared your Mechabo, like, you were fucked, right? And because it was Master Rule 5, like, you had to mess around with cards like Eater of Millions, like main deck Reaper. You had to play like 15. I think I was playing 15 hand traps. Some people were playing like 18, 21. Like, it was just like how the deck can function when you're playing that many non-engine cards. It's just like, that's why I always loved Invoked. It's just such a cool engine, and it had such good matchups at the time if you opened right. You know, that's any rogue deck. You have to open a little above optimally more often than not, but it just, you know, Alistair's a hell of a card.
Yeah, one card engine in Yu-Gi-Oh! Dope. But so let's see here.
Well, I wanted to fast forward to like present day, and would you say, obviously we've both gotten significantly better as players. Would you, if you played that, either the Crystal Beast deck, or if you somehow like put together the majority of your old school deck, would you be able to pilot it better, or what are some things you would have changed back then? You know, stuff like that.
We have to change, like, for one, the structure. For fuck's sake, the one of theory's gotta go. 100%.
Yeah, you're one of. It's not Highlander format. You know, there's a difference between one of theory and Highlander.
I don't know. I think when I like look back at it, like really look back at it, I think I had the right idea when I was doing my deck building. I just think I kind of executed it poorly for what I had access to.
I mean, you got to remember. Yeah, access to cards was such a big thing because I remember playing like cards that I knew. I'm like, I just wish this was this card, you know. Like,
yeah, and I got, like, just looking back at it, like, one, I don't think I'm ever gonna touch a Crystal Beast deck ever again, especially since I was traumatized by that fucking trap card.
Can I have your Max Rarity one?
No,
please.
No.
God, you're the worst kind of person ever. You're not Santa Claus. You just look like him.
Oh, wow. I appreciate you, guy.
Hey.
Fucking Christ.
You got no room to talk when you start the podcast every week with John Likes Men.
I mean, you do. Let's be real here.
All right, guys. Well, it was fun. It was a lot more laid back this week. If you have a topic in mind, you know, we're trying to stay engaged with Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's just hard right now. This is the fakest format that could have been great, and I'm just so bored with the game. So if you have a topic, you should post it on one of our YouTubes or message either of us on Twitter and let us know, because we're more than happy to look into a topic for you guys. But Joe, you got any closing comments?
Honestly, if you guys have any like stories of like your first competitive exposure to competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, let us know. 'Cause some of these are actually hilarious. Because especially like with John's, like I didn't realize like half the stuff. Like the all-seeing white tiger and Eye Truth is forever going to be iconic to me now.
Yeah, I cannot get over that. I'm gonna link him to this and be like, "Why did you do that?" I'm gonna see if he remembers, because I know he collects and he dabbles in the game. So I'm gonna hit him up and be like, "What the fuck were you doing? I need closure."
I need closure, but as always, don't forget, guys. Douglas French has no sauce.
Nigga, low, you have no sauce. No. Hey.
All right. If you have enjoyed, please remember to check us out every week, same time, same place, 8 o'clock on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and a bunch of other places. 10 a.m. on YouTube on my channel, and either 10 a.m. or 2 weeks from 10 a.m. on Joe's channel because I'm lazy. All right. Peace out.
Okay, bye.